I have been here 6 years. I came in because I was at a point in my life I was desperate for change. I was an athlete growing up, and then I didn't do a thing for about 20 years. So I was in my 40s. I was miserable. I was overweight. My clothes didn't fit. I was a little disgusted with myself. My health and my fitness is one thing I have 100% control over. I'm a business leader. I'm a father, a husband, and I expect people in my organization and family. I expect everybody else to be disciplined, but I was not setting an example, and I that bothered me. I needed change. Number one, I didn't care about what I ate. Had no knowledge of the food I was putting into my body, not both quantity of food as well as quality of food. I mean, like most of America, I was addicted to sugar. I literally probably drank 7 or 8 Cokes a day. I was eating for convenience. I was on the road all day long. Far easier to stop in and get some fast food than it was to pack my lunch every day. And honestly, if I'd been packing my lunch every day at that point, I probably wouldn't have known enough to pack the right stuff anyway. So I would have been eating crap. Alcohol. For 20 years, I was wearing drapery, covering up my belly. I remember walking in the door saying, I am ready to do whatever you tell me to do. Was, working with you on the meal plan, and I ate exactly what was on that meal plan for 2 months. I was here working out 4 to 5 times a week. We went from 25% to like 20, I think it was right around 19 or 20%. So that 60-day change for me was significant. The next 5 years weren't perfect. Over the next year or two, I had some setbacks, which in the past would have totally derailed me and probably kept me from continuing any program I was doing. Now, when I get off track, to recognize it, respond, and start to bounce back to my new steady state, which is doing the right things, as opposed to my previous steady state, which was kind of doing all the wrong things. So going from unhealthy being my normal to healthy being my normal, I would definitely acknowledge it wasn't an overnight switch. That process was a little bit at a time, a lot of coaching from you, from a lot of people here, through the relationships, the accountability. There's an athleticism that comes with the CrossFit workout, because we're doing weightlifting, gymnastics movements, as well as some of the cardio all built in. Is not only working my muscle mass, training my muscles to get stronger, it is also working my brain, the neurological component of the coordination of being able to do double unders with a jump rope, to the timing, the coordination of being able to do a muscle up. Walking on hands. If you would have told me I could walk on my hands 3 years ago, I would have looked at you like you had three heads, like everybody else who looks at CrossFit people and says, "Oh, you crazy people doing all this weird stuff." And I can like walk on my hands at 54. I'm going into my 50s. I'm getting stronger. I'm on an upward curve. I'm literally stronger than I was at the end of high school and in those beginning years when I was weightlifting, playing football, and doing all that kind of stuff. And I feel better about myself now than I have in the last 30 years. Every workout is 100% different than the last one. You never know what you're going to do every day, which is part of the fun of it. And you're doing it with a bunch of other people. Number one, I think one of the most exciting things about CrossFit is it's such a community. And I mean, this gym and CrossFit in general is so much about the community and the people you're working out with. Because I started learning that none of these people were judging me or evaluating me based upon how much I was lifting. Everybody here wanted to see me be successful in what I was doing, wanted to encourage me. And it didn't matter whether I was lifting 10 pounds or 100 pounds. And seeing the diversity of people that are here at all different levels, and the intensity is important. And it's probably one of the bigger things and bigger reasons why when I was in the gym just doing some weightlifting or some bodybuilding type of stuff, that I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. I can remember it was a couple of years ago, I went to the gym just to work out with a friend, and we were bodybuilding. And, and at one point he looked at me and says, "Hey, when are we going to start losing weight?" I said, we're probably not going to lose weight doing this. We might build some muscle and stuff like that. But the reality is, without the intensity in a workout, the intensity is what shocks the glands in your bodies to produce the hormones that cause change in your body. So it's important to dial in your nutrition, but then you also need the intensity from your workout to kind of like shake yourself up, that allows that your body to be shocked into the response and produce the results that we're looking for. And you just not necessarily going to get that in a gym if you're not doing something with some intensity. But intensity scares people. It's probably the number one thing I hear when I tell people I'm doing CrossFit and I'm 53, and they're just like, "Are you Are you sure you should be doing that? Is that really good for you at this age? And are you worried about hurting your knees, your shoulders, and all that kind of stuff? And everybody has this perception that this stereotypical CrossFitter who's, crazy, doing all these intense, really heavy lifts or walking on their hands, do all these different things. And the reality is that not everybody starts there, and it's not important that you have to start there. It's every single movement done in a CrossFit gym is scalable and can be adjusted for every single level of person that comes here. One person might be jumping on a 30-inch box, another person might be jumping on a 4-inch plate. But the reality is that what is intense for one person is not necessarily the same as what's intense for another person. And finding that point of relative intensity for each individual person is the important part of producing change in that person's life. And the importance and the job of the coaches in the CrossFit gym is to help people push to find their level of intensity at the same time as to keep people from pushing past that level of intensity. Something called the CrossFit Charter, which ensures that somebody's capable of doing a movement properly, consistently before we add intensity. So a change in perspective on the way I look at my goals for myself now. I have a much longer term perspective, whereas my goals used to be, I want to lose X pounds in so many weeks or whatever, and then I'd go pursue it, and then you achieve it, and then what, right? Now my goals are more identity focused. So I've decided that I want to be a healthy person. I want to be a fit person. I want to be somebody who wakes up every day and figures out how to find the time to go work out. I want that because I recognize the value in my life going forward. I'll be honest, the biggest reason I wanted it is because I hate the way I felt for 30 years. The energy I have now, feeling fit, being able to wear clothes and feel comfortable in them. I watch people get old around me all the time, and they don't age well. They can't move. I don't want to be that way. If I'm going to be alive, I want to be able to live, and I want to be able to do stuff. I want to be able to have quality of life. I am setting an example for the people who work for me, my family. I'm a crazy CrossFitter now because I talk about it all the time, and it's all I want to talk about. I enjoy it. It's exciting. I partly do it on purpose because I know it keeps me focused, and I do it also because I like it. And this is my community. This is a big group of my friends now, and so it is a big part of my life. I talk about it all the time. The amount of change that is realized is equal to, and there's 3 components, and these 3 components are multiplied by each other. So if any one of them is 0, there's no change. So the very first thing that's necessary that the person involved in change has to perceive dissatisfaction with the status quo. You don't see anything wrong with your current state, you're probably not going to change. There has to be some level of dissatisfaction with where you are to have the motivation to drive the change. The second part of it is there's got to be some vision of where you're trying to get to. I want to weigh X amount, or whether it's the systematic goals that we're talking about, where it's like, I want to live a healthy lifestyle and do these things and that's the person I want to be. That's the vision of where you're going. There's got to be some clear path or plan for how to get there. If that person doesn't walk in here with some desire to change, nothing else matters. The hard part, and where most people have struggled probably most of their lives, is in this path to get there and the plan to get there. What does your meal plan look like? What does nutrition look like for you? What are the changes in your life that you need to make? What's the workout plan going to look like? How many times a week? What other life changes are necessary? What am I going to do about my drinking? There has to be a dissatisfaction with the status quo and a desire to change. There has to be a vision of where you're going, and there has to be a clear plan to get there. Coming here from the first day, the relationships that I developed and created an accountability. So I had an immediate accountability that changed things. So I had people that cared about me in my life, like genuinely cared about my success and cared about me changing and achieving what it was I was looking for. When we've had conversations, knowing that other people were pouring into me, encouraging me and spending effort and time to try to help me through this, gave me an accountability that definitely kept me hooked. This is the most fun I've ever had working out too. I mean, once I'm being around people doing different stuff, I like achieving things. And so coming here and seeing results quickly for me was probably one of the most valuable things for me to stay engaged with this. After that 60-day transformation initially, like I could never, I never had an excuse again because I know that it works. I know what works now because of that. That took away all of my excuses to be able to, say, oh, I tried that, it doesn't work, whatever. No, I did this and it worked. And you can never take that away from me. I achieved that through the help of being here. Enjoying being here was a big part of it. It was just no longer an option not to come. And suddenly that was the new normal. I tell you, that's how you form a habit, is if you do it long enough. In the beginning, it's forced, and eventually it's no longer forced. The most significant change I've noticed in my life is I wake up every morning and I feel good about myself. Somebody said this once to me, and I recall it every time I'm dissatisfied with where I am. And that saying was, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. All right, this is probably the most important part of what helped me change over time. So before coming here and before diving into CrossFit, before learning about nutrition, and before all of the things and the coaching and the mentoring that I've gotten here, I approach my life with result-oriented goals. So I, for example, came in here thinking, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. Right, that was my goal. The problem with a result-oriented goal is, one, if it's that big, there's a long way to get to getting to 30, and it doesn't necessarily establish the path for getting there. So there's obviously a lot of other steps that have to happen from now until then, number one. Number two, if I do achieve that, which there have been times in the past where I've set a goal like that and I've achieved it, and as soon as I've achieved it, I'm done. And then what happens tomorrow, I'm right back to where I was because, well, I achieved my goal. What now? It took me a little while to be open to understanding why I was here and understanding exactly what CrossFit was. So taking the level one coaching seminar for me is where I learned what CrossFit is. And that like just accelerated my passion for CrossFit once I understood. I'm an engineer. I like to understand the whys about things. And so understanding why CrossFit led me to understand that, the definition of CrossFit: highly varied functional movements executed at high intensity, right? So the varied movements, learning about the three energy systems we have. If I'm in the gym, all I'm doing is really working that creatine system, that heavy pump, the short, fast twitch muscles. If I'm doing cardio, all I'm really working is that oxidative system to be able to breathe and last for a long time. But and then in between, you have this glycolytic system that runs off the glucose in your blood sugar that gets you through everything else in between, and allows you to last. And it's really important too. But all three systems are important, and being in the gym doesn't really work that. Even running, people who love to run, it's great. They're building their lungs up, they're building their conditioning from a oxidative energy system standpoint, but they're not necessarily working and building the muscle mass and doing the things that I feel are important, that I'm interested in going into my older age, building muscle as opposed to losing muscle. And being well-rounded and working at all three systems, all the variations of things that we do in CrossFit help to address all of that. Functional movements, because when I'm older, I want to be able to get up off the toilet. I don't want when I'm on the ground, I want to be able to get up, right? So I'm going to do burpees because that's getting up off the ground. I want to be able to get off the toilet. That's a squat. I want to be able to lift a heavy object off the ground without hurting my back. That's a deadlift.